Pocket FM.
To unlock all the episodes, click the link in bio.
Captain Floyd, who was leading the team, strode up to Stephen and saluted him.
"Hello, Chief. Santa Ana's special forces have the construction site surrounded. Please give us your instructions."
Sergio was stunned when Captain Floyd addressed Stephen as chief. Captain Floyd was well known in the city of Santa Ana, but even he had to regard Stephen as his superior. Sergio didn't have the courage to scrutinize Stephen's real identity.
"These people have committed heinous crimes and are obstructing the construction of a 5-star hotel. They've extorted money from civilians, and they're a danger to the city. Treat them as criminals and round them up."
"Yes, sir."
Captain Floyd waved his hand at his soldiers.
"Get ready."
Even though Sergio held a lofty position in the underworld, he had never experienced such a situation before. The man with the tattoos and the rest of the group threw away their pride and followed suit. This had been Stephen's goal from the very beginning. If rumors were spread that an influential figure of the underworld was supporting the construction of the 5-star hotel from the sidelines, no one else would dare to delay the construction. The police had connections with the underworld, and even if they did lock Sergio and his subordinates up, they would be released the next day and come back to threaten Kim and the manager. The appearance of the military was the only way Stephen could force Sergio and his subordinates to back down.
"I can let you off, but on one condition," Stephen said. "You and your group have to help out with the construction. To make up for the losses the workers suffered because of you, none of you will be paid. Think of it as volunteer work."
Sergio was grateful that Stephen was willing to spare them. How could he ask for money?
"Thank you, Mr. Adams." "Get up," Stephen said. "Starting tomorrow, bring your group and come to work. By the way, Sergio, do you have something you want to tell me?"
Attempting to extort $50 million from a huge project like the Eastern Sea Group's 5-star hotel, which everyone in the city had their eyes on, would only draw unnecessary attention to Sergio and his subordinates. It would be more realistic to ask for a few million. Haynes Industries was aware of how important this project was, so they wouldn't mind spending a bit more money to make it a success. It was clear that Sergio had demanded $50 million under someone else's orders. The knowing look in Stephen's eyes was unnerving. Sergio stuttered as he told him everything.
Actually, it wasn't me who came up with this idea. Someone gave me $10 million and told me to come to the construction site and make things difficult for Miss Kim." "Who gave you the $10 million?"
Stephen asked. He suspected that the culprit was one of Natalie's brothers-in-law. Sergio confirmed his suspicion, and it wasn't just one of them. It was all of them. Natalie's 4 brothers-in-law had chipped in and given him $10 million. It seemed like Kim becoming the vice president had made them uneasy. This was not a small conspiracy, and without Gordon and Mavis's approval, they wouldn't have dared to throw away so much money and attempted something on such a large scale. The next morning, as Sergio had promised, he and his subordinates came to the construction site. But not to make trouble, they were here to work. They were well built, and it wasn't difficult for them to pick up manual labor. They were just as competent as the construction workers. The manager was stupefied as he watched Sergio and his hundreds of subordinates work diligently. Stephen arrived and greeted the manager with a smile.
"The problem from yesterday has been resolved. They're here as volunteers to help out with the construction. Feel free to tell them what to do. If they don't listen, be sure to let me know."
Sergio was passing by with a wooden plank in his arms and overheard their conversation.
"Mr. Adams is right. We'll help out any way we can."
The manager didn't know how Stephen had tamed Sergio, the man with the tattoo, and their subordinates overnight, but he was suddenly motivated by all this free labor. "Mr. Adams, I'll work hard and make sure this project is completed on time." At Haynes Industries, Natalie's brothers-in-law were frantically waiting for an update from Sergio.
"We should give him a call,"
Linda's husband said. Gianna's husband agreed.
"He took $10 million from us.
And we can't just ask Kim for the money back. Sergio went to the construction site yesterday. Why hasn't he gotten in contact with us yet? Do you think he ran away with the money? Kelly's husband took out his phone. I'll call him right now. He dialed Sergio's number as he spoke. Sergio bristled with anger when he received a call from Kelly's husband asking about the $50 million. Because of them, he and his subordinates have been driven into a miserable corner last night.
Is money the only thing on your mind? Miss Kim's husband came to the construction site yesterday.
After spewing a string of curses, Sergio hung up and returned to the pile of bricks he had been sorting. What did he say? Linda's husband asked. Kelly's husband stared at his phone. From his attitude, I assume he didn't get the $50 million. Also, he met Stephen there yesterday. He must have done something to make Sergio angry. Linda's husband slammed his fist on the table. Why did that good-for-nothing go to the site? He must have had too much free time on his hands. Wait, what if Sergio thinks we sent Stephen there on purpose to make a fool out of him? I think we should meet with him and clear the air. Sergio was well known on Santa Ana's streets. If he misunderstood and thought that they had plotted against him, he would surely seek them out for revenge. As such, Natalie's brother-in-law hurried to the construction site to search for him. They were expecting to see Sergio and his subordinates surrounding the site, but to their surprise, the construction work was in full swing. They couldn't even catch a glimpse of Sergio. Linda's husband looked around in confusion. What's going on? Do you think he ran away? Probably not, Kelly's husband said. We should ask one of the workers. He noticed a worker nearby moving bricks and tapped him on the shoulder. Excuse me, I'm looking for someone. Kelly's husband stopped short when the worker raised his head. It was Sergio. He was wearing a safety helmet and his face was covered in mud. For a second, Kelly's husband thought he'd recognized the wrong person. But when the man spoke, it was clear that he was indeed Sergio. What are you guys doing here? Kelly's husband quickly explained himself. We know that Kim's useless husband came here yesterday and offended you. We're here to clarify the misunderstanding. We didn't know he would come. So, you're playing innocent? Sergio cursed and glared at the four of them. Remember this. From now on, we have nothing to do with each other. And if you find someone else to give Miss Kim a hard time, don't blame me for coming after you. The four of them looked at each other. They couldn't understand how things had turned out this way. Linda's husband calmly analyzed the situation and came to a conclusion. It had to have been the owner of Eastern Sea Group. I think we should let this go. Megan's husband was reluctant. That's easy for you to say. $2.5 million might not mean anything to you, but it's a lot of money for me. You're not the only one who paid $2.5 million, Kelly's husband said. But the money's with Sergio. Are you going to ask for it back? Megan's husband wisely shut his mouth. After confirming that Sergio and his subordinates were at the construction site, Stephen headed to Santa Ana's military camp. It had been some time since Melinda had arrived in Los Angeles, but she hadn't made a move. There was a high chance that she was cooking up a nefarious plan in secret. Ever since Stephen came to Santa Ana, he could sense someone lingering in the shadows. It could be Melinda herself or one of her people. When Melinda was in Washington, D.C., she excelled at her job, which was to assassinate anyone who got in the Addams family's way. Stephen had to be careful when dealing with her. At the military camp, he asked Xavier if anyone among his troops was skilled at scouting. There's a soldier named Flynn. He's a scout who specializes in stealth and tracking people down. I believe he's the right person for the job. Okay, I trust your judgment. I'll leave this task to him. Xavier felt a sense of pride knowing that Stephen trusted him. When it came to military merits and achievements, no one could compare to Stephen, not even him. Xavier was only slightly older than Stephen, but their strength was worlds apart. Meanwhile, Kim was panicking at home. Yesterday, she had gone to the largest bank in Santa Ana to apply for a loan, but they rejected her request. Kim was already stressed from her workload ever since she had taken on the position of vice president, and the $50 million compensation only made it worse. She was physically and mentally exhausted by the time she came home. Kim was hoping she could talk about her concern with Stephen. Even if he didn't have a solution, he would always be there for her and offer her comfort that no one else could. But he was nowhere to be found. Kim had no choice but to deal with her stress on her own. She took a quick shower and went to bed, crying herself to sleep. The next morning, Kim still couldn't find Stephen anywhere. She received a call from Linda, who told her that Stephen had insulted a thug named Sergio and warned her to be careful.
I told you, Stephen does nothing but cause us trouble, Natalie said in frustration. Now that he's messed with Sergio, we can't stay in Santa Ana anymore.
Kim was worried about Stephen after the phone call. Mom, Stephen most likely found out about what happened at the construction site, so he went there to have a talk with them because he wanted to help me. But there's no way he could fight that many people on his own. He didn't come home last night. What if Sergio has him? Unbeknownst to Kim and Natalie, when Stephen returned home last night, it was past 1 o'clock. He didn't want to wake Kim, so instead of going upstairs, he slept on the couch in the living room. And in the morning, Stephen went straight to the construction site, so no one had seen him since yesterday. Natalie let out a sigh.
Why are you concerning yourself with him at a time like this?
Kim stood up and grabbed her phone. I have to go back to the bank and get that loan. When Sergio and his group get the $50 million, they'll have to let Stephen go. Natalie called after Kim as she ran out the door, but she ignored her. The president of the bank, Alexander Klein, wasn't pleased to see Kim again. I told you this yesterday, Miss Kim. We can't give Haynes Industries a loan of $50 million. I'm here for a personal loan. That's even more impossible. It's not easy for a $50 million personal loan to be approved. Please, I really need the money. Alexander took a seat on the couch and gazed at Kim. Under normal circumstances, our bank would never agree. But I can see that you're desperate. While I can't help you personally, I do know someone who works in the finance industry. He can lend you $50 million without collateral. Coincidentally, I'll be having dinner with him this evening. Would you like to come with me? Kim was relieved that she had a chance to get the $50 million to save Stephen. Thank you so much, Mr. Klein. Of course. I'm only trying to help. Remember to dress up. At 5 p.m., Alexander stepped out of the car and greeted her. Miss Kim, you're here early. Kim had changed out of her blazer and business skirt. She was in a short dress, black tights, and heels. Alexander stared at her. Kim smiled awkwardly and held out a hand towards the hotel. After you. Alexander led her inside, and they took a seat at the empty table in the restaurant. Kim looked around anxiously. Where's your friend? The smile slipped from Alexander's face. Miss Kim, you're here to ask him for help. You should be understanding if he's running a bit late. He did have a point. Kim apologized for being impatient. I understand that you're in urgent need of money, but as you know, CEOs like them are busy and their time is valuable. We should wait patiently. Alexander poured a glass of wine for her. Let's have a few drinks and chat while we wait. Shouldn't we wait until your friend gets here? Alexander's phone rang and interrupted them. He excused himself and left his seat to take the call. A few minutes later, he returned. I'm really sorry. That was my friend. He said there's a traffic jam and he'll be a half an hour late. He slid the glass of wine towards Kim. Let's drink to pass the time. No, thank you. I'm cutting back on alcohol. Is that so? Miss Kim, let me put it this way. When my friend arrives, I'll be helping you persuade him for that loan. Can't you have one drink to show your gratitude? If you keep refusing, I might sit there and enjoy our meal instead. Kim understood what he was trying to say. If she wanted that $50 million loan, she would have to accept this drink. She reluctantly raised the glass to her lips and took a sip. The wine burned her throat. But that wasn't enough for Alexander. Taking one sip isn't enough to show your sincerity. Kim gritted her teeth and downed the entire glass. When she put it down on the table, a wave of dizziness washed over her. Her vision blurred, and everything went black. Alexander called 2 waitresses over. "My friend is drunk. Please help me bring her to room 888. Room 888 was a private room on the 30th floor that Alexander had booked for a long time at this hotel. This was a room for him and the women he chose to invite. Yesterday, when Kim had come knocking on his office door at the bank, it only took one glance for Alexander to be captivated by her beauty. A plan surfaced in his mind when she came to the bank again today. While he did have many acquaintances in the financial industry, none of them would be coming tonight. The staff at the hotel were already used to Alexander's behavior. He would give them several $1,000s in tips, and they would gladly accept because that was enough to pay for their rent for the next 2 months. He took a swig from a bottle of alcohol and headed to the bathroom for a shower. By the time Stephen returned home from the military camp, it was already late in the afternoon. Kim wasn't home, and he'd already resolved the issue with Sergio and his group, so she was probably at Haynes Industries. Kim would be getting off work soon, so he took a cab to the company to pick her up. But she wasn't there either. "Miss Kim went to the bank to apply for a loan. She hasn't returned since she left," her secretary said. Linda spotted Stephen as she was leaving. "It's true. I just got back from the bank, and I heard Kim has an appointment with the bank president, Alexander Klein, tonight. Coincidentally, they'll be having a meal together at a hotel restaurant." She looked at her watch. "They should be there already." Stephen glowered at her. "Shut up. Kim's not that kind of person." Whether she is or isn't, I don't know. But Alexander sure is. He'll try to get any woman who catches his eye into his bed. What's more, Kim had a request for him. If the deal goes through, we'll have Alexander's bank as one of our connections, and maybe our reputation in the city will get better. There's nothing you can contribute, but Kim is your wife. Letting her do this for the sake of the company is the least you could do. Before Linda could finish, Stephen was already out the door. There was no time to waste. Kim was in danger, and every minute counted. He called Jack. "I'll give you 30 seconds. Find out where Alexander Klein is. He's the president of a bank in Santa Ana." Jack realized how dire the situation was from the short deadline. In 20 seconds, he reported back to Stephen. As he spoke, he sent a message with the hotel's address.
"After Miss Kim got drunk, she was brought upstairs. Alexander has been staying in room 888 at the hotel for a long time. It's rush hour, and if you drive there now, you won't make it in time."
"What about the helicopter?" Stephen asked.
"Yes, that's the fastest possible route."
"All right, I'll ask Captain Floyd to make arrangements for a helicopter. Send me a layout of the hotel."
Stephen hung up and called Captain Floyd, who sent over a military helicopter as soon as he received the order. While Stephen was on his way to the hotel, Jack sent him the hotel's layout with room 888 marked. Alexander came out of the bathroom after a quick shower. He went to the bed and gazed at Kim. She was still unconscious. The sound of a helicopter caught his attention. He turned and saw a military helicopter outside the window. The cabin door opened, and a man crashed into the glass. The window shattered, and he rolled to a stop on the floor. Alexander was startled. "Who are you? What are you doing here?" Stephen ignored him and looked at Kim. Her clothes were intact, but her face was flushed. He was relieved that he'd made it in time.
"Are you Alexander Klein?"
Alexander straightened. "I am, but who are you? Why did you barge into my room? If you don't answer, I'll call the police." His tone was calm, but a man jumping down from a military helicopter and crashing through a window on the 30th floor of a high-rise hotel was enough to scare anyone. If Alexander said he wasn't afraid, that would be a lie.
"You're not qualified to know my identity,"
Stephen said. He threw a dagger onto the floor.
"I'll give you 2 options. End your life or break your arms and legs."
Anyone who dared to mess with Kim would pay. Alexander stared at the dagger embedded in the carpet.
Who do you think you are? Do you know who I am? That's not important. You can call the police if you want, but I can't guarantee you'll survive long enough to speak to them. Based on what you did tonight, the police should be coming to arrest you.
Alexander felt his blood run cold when he met Stephen's cold gaze. There was no doubt that he would be tortured and killed mercilessly if he didn't make a choice.
Alexander's voice trembled. I choose the second option. Then break your own arms and legs. Do you want to do it yourself, or do you want me to do it for you?
I'll do it myself,
Alexander said shakily as he stole a glance at the dagger. Stephen couldn't be standing more than 5 feet away. Alexander repeated his plan in his head one more time before pulling the dagger out of the floor and lunging at Stephen. Stephen didn't even try to dodge. How could an ordinary person like Alexander be a match for him? When Alexander rushed at him, he snatched the dagger and cut off his arm. Blood splattered on the nightstand and dripped on the floor. Everything had happened in an instant. Alexander collapsed on his knees, and his pained cry resounded throughout the room. It took all he had to raise his head and glare at Stephen.
Kill me if you have the courage, but if I die, my family will come after you. Fitting last words for a criminal like you, but I won't kill you. You're from the Klein family in Santa Ana, right? I'll keep you alive so you can pass on my message to your father.
Alexander had gotten his position as the president of the bank because he was the son of the wealthy Klein family. His father, Douglas Klein, was the head of the family. And he owned a company that took on projects in many different industries, such as real estate, mining, transportation, and others. His assets were worth more than $10 billion, and it wouldn't be an understatement to call him the richest man in Santa Ana. The economic development of the city depended on how well Douglas's businesses were faring. With Santa Ana's economic lifeline in his hands, Douglas was more than capable of exacting vengeance against the man who'd almost killed his son. Chaos erupted when Alexander was sent back to the Klein family's mansion with 3 broken limbs and 1 arm missing. Douglas was furious at the bloody scene. His son was on the brink of death. Douglas clenched his fists. Each finger was adorned with rings of gold.
Who did this? I'm going to kill him. Kim Cassidy of Haynes Industries, her husband Stephen Adams, did this to me,
Alexander cried. Douglas turned to his subordinate and roared,
Gather our people. We're going to Haynes Industries.
Aside from being the determining factor of Santa Ana's economy, Douglas was also the leader of a group known for their astonishing combat capabilities. When Kim woke up, her first thought was that she had a pounding headache. Her second thought was that she was lying in a bed, one that was not as comfortable as her own at Riverview Villa. She kept her eyes closed as panic seized her chest. The last thing she remembered was dining with Alexander at a restaurant. Where was she? And how did she get here? Kim cracked open an eye and saw Stephen sitting next to her on the bed. Relief washed over her. She turned her head. Sunlight was streaming through the windows. Where are we?
Kim, you're awake, Stephen said with a smile. You've been asleep since yesterday evening. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. We're at a hotel, and this is room 888.
Kim sat up with a start and looked down. To her relief, she was fully clothed. It looked like she hadn't become one of Alexander's. Did you come here to save me?
Stephen nodded. Of course. I'm sorry I was late, Kim. I should have told you earlier that everything at the construction site was settled. You wouldn't have had to plead with Alexander.
When he brought up the construction site, Kim remembered that he had gotten into a conflict with Sergio and his group. You didn't come home the other night. Are you okay? Stephen gave her a puzzled look, but then realization dawned on him. Kim and Natalie were already asleep by the time he came home at 1 o'clock, and he'd left early in the morning before they woke up. Kim probably heard about how he'd paid a visit to the construction site and thought that he was in trouble.
I'm fine. I did come home the other night, but I slept on the couch because I didn't want to wake you up.
Kim let out a sigh of relief. Thank goodness. I thought something happened to you. But how did you resolve the problem? Did you get $50 million? She couldn't even get the bank to give her a loan. How would Stephen be able to get $50 million? Stephen chuckled.
Giving them $50 million isn't the only solution. I have my own ways of solving things.
Kim went to the bathroom to wash up. After having a quick breakfast, she left the hotel with Stephen. She was curious to see how he'd managed to deal with those hoodlums. As for room 888, the glass window had been broken last night, but none of the hotel's staff dared to ask Stephen for compensation. With Jack's warning, they also promised not to divulge what had happened to anyone. Before Kim had woken up, the hotel staff had cleaned the room and repaired the window. When they arrived at the construction site, Kim was surprised to see the man with the tattoo working hard to carry buckets of cement. Other than him, more than 500 other workers were working like their lives depended on it. She couldn't remember their company hiring this many construction workers, so she surmised that some of them were demolition workers. When Sergio and the man with the tattoo saw Kim, they came over and greeted her.
Good morning, Miss Kim.
The man with the tattoo's change in attitude left her speechless. It had only been 1 day since he came here demanding $50 million. Now, he was passionately working to build a 5-star hotel. What in the world was going on?
They volunteered to make up for the losses and working here for free. They'll be working until the hotel is completed,
Stephen explained. The man with the tattoo and Sergio quickly agreed.
That's right, Miss Kim. We've brought more than 500 people with us. Even if we have to work overtime, we'll make sure the hotel is completed on schedule.
Kim was even more confused. They seemed to be afraid of Stephen. She pulled him aside. What did you do?
I didn't do anything. My fist did the talking.
Kim's phone rang before she could question him further. It was Gordon. Ordinarily, he would never call her, and that hadn't changed after she became the vice president.
Kim, hurry back home. Something serious has happened.
After Gordon finished his sentence, he hung up. Kim and Stephen exchanged a glance. They left the construction site and took a cab back to the Haynes family's house. Gordon and Mavis had been waiting for them. Natalie and her older sisters were also present, and the atmosphere was tense. What's wrong, Grandpa? Kim asked after entering the house.
Are you really asking me that? Think hard about what you've done,
Gordon said icily. Kim, you went to Alexander Klein for a loan, but you ended up messing with the entire family, Linda said. They've prepared a group of people to ambush the company, and they're demanding for us to hand you over. Otherwise, we'll be done for. My husband and the others are still at the company, Kelly said anxiously. Dad, none of them did anything wrong, but they're taking the fall for Kim and Stephen. That's not right. Linda raised her hand. I agree. Gianna and Megan chimed in. I agree as well.
Since everyone is in agreement, then the matter has been decided, Gordon said. Kim and Stephen will go to Haynes Industries and explain themselves to Lucas Klein.
Natalie hurriedly defended them. No matter how useless Stephen was, he didn't deserve to be sent to his death.
Dad, Kim is your granddaughter, and she's also the vice president of Haynes Industries. As for Stephen, he's your grandson-in-law. You can't just give them up like this. Natalie, you and I both know that we don't have a choice. These people are dangerous, and Lucas has asked for both Kim and Stephen to see him.
Stephen interjected.
We'll go, but I'm sure all of you are aware that we're not the real cause of this predicament. If it weren't for your ridiculous plans, today's incident wouldn't have happened.
What are you talking about? Mavis asked angrily.
A group of people going to the construction site of an important project to cause trouble and ask for $50 million from Kim. I think everyone is well aware of what's really going on. Kim went to the bank to ask for a loan from Alexander so that the project could be successful. Not only did none of you lend her a hand, but you're also even adding insult to injury. Is this the true face of the Haynes family?
Everyone fell silent. Gordon and Mavis hadn't expected Stephen, of all people, to expose them. What are you going to do if it's true? Linda asked defensively. If you guys hadn't coveted Haynes Industries for yourselves, we wouldn't have to come up with this plan. I heard you injured Lucas's son badly. He'll never let you or Kim go. But don't worry. After you two die, my family will honor your death next year." Everyone else agreed with her. Giving you two up for the survival of the Haynes family is worth it. If their intentions weren't clear before, they were all laid out on the table now. The Haynes family was planning on saving themselves by sacrificing Kim and Stephen. This was the so-called reputable, wealthy Haynes family. There was no loyalty, and family relations meant nothing. Kim scanned their faces with a cold look in her eyes. "This started because of me, so I'll take responsibility. No need to worry, none of you will be affected." "Looks like you understand," Linda said. "Kim, I'll come with you," Stephen said. Kim nodded. "Okay." On their way to Haynes Industries, Stephen sent Jack a message asking him about Lucas's information. Stephen had originally thought that since Lucas held Santa Ana's economy in his grasp, his businesses were owned by the palace, but that wasn't the case. According to Jack, Lucas had ties with the Adams family in Washington, D.C. It couldn't have been a coincidence that Kim encountered Alexander. Melinda might have been the one behind it. She hadn't made a move since she had arrived to Los Angeles. This might have been part of her plan. Lucas's subordinates surrounded the entrance to Haynes Industries. The daily operations of the company couldn't go on as they normally did. When Stephen and Kim got out of the cab, they were immediately surrounded. Lucas stepped forward.
"You're finally here, Miss Kim. You've got some nerve to get your husband to injure my son like that."
"Mr. Lucas, your son was the one who intended on doing something to me. I was merely defending myself," Kim said.
"Self-defense, you say?" Lucas sneered. "Does self-defense entail losing an arm and breaking limbs?"
Kim was taken aback. She didn't know Alexander was injured this badly.
"I'm the one who did that to your son," Stephen said. "He hurt many women from wealthy families in the past, and he was intending on doing the same to my wife last night. Your son is a criminal, and I've already been generous enough to spare his life." "Are you telling me to thank you?" "Sure, I thank you and your entire family. But today, you will pay with your blood. As for your lovely wife, I want all her limbs broken so she can spend the rest of her life with my son."
Lucas gave his order, and more than 1,000 of his subordinates started to move. Kim shrank back. "What should we do?" she asked in a small voice. Stephen embraced her.
"It'll be fine. Even if I get hacked to death, I won't let them hurt you. Not even a scratch."
Kim covered Stephen's mouth with her hand. "Stop that. You're not allowed to die." Stephen looked at the crowd of people stalking towards them. Him? Die in a group like that? That would never happen. He wouldn't be afraid even if Lucas had brought 10,000 subordinates. Just as Stephen was about to make his move, another group of people walked towards the company. They surrounded Lucas and his 1,000 subordinates. Trent and Sergio were at the head. Lucas, the wealthiest man in Santa Ana, naturally didn't care about the underworld. As a matter of fact, they should be treating him with respect.
"Trent, Sergio, what are you two doing here?"
Sergio walked up to him. "Please take my advice and apologize to Mr. Adams. Depending on his mood today, maybe he'll let this matter go. We can even try to talk to him on your behalf."
"Did you lose your mind? Do you want me to apologize to this brat? What about my son?"
Trent spoke up. "Mr. Lucas, I think you should listen to Sergio. Mr. Adams isn't someone you should mess with." Lucas threw his head back and laughed.
"We're in Santa Ana. There's nothing I can't do. Don't waste your breath."
"We can't stop you if you insist on going after Mr. Adams and his wife, but just know that we'll be standing on their side," Trent said. Trent and Sergio were both aware of Stephen's identity. Even though they were influential in the underworld, Lucas's strength was nothing to scoff at, but compared to Stephen, Lucas was nothing. When they heard that Lucas was planning to go against Stephen and Kim, they mobilized their subordinates to back them up. Trent and Sergio's subordinates took out their weapons.
What's this? Are you trying to scare me just because you have the upper hand in numbers? I can assure you that no matter how many people you bring, Kim and Steven won't be able to escape.
Lucas's arrogant attitude made Trent and Sergio ready to fight him to the death. Before anyone could leap into battle, Lucas held up a hand.
However, I have urgent matters to attend to at my company. I'll need to hurry back. But don't think this is over. Kim, Steven, I'll give you 3 days to give me a satisfactory answer. Otherwise, you won't be as lucky as you were today.
Lucas waved his hand at his subordinates and shouted,
Let's go!
He glared at Trent and Sergio as he walked past them. Then he pointed at Steven.
Remember, you only have 3 days.
Lucas turned and walked away. His group of more than 1,000 of his subordinates followed him. When they were a good distance away, he whispered to his secretary,
Take a peek behind you and see if they're following us.
I don't think they are, his secretary replied.
Okay, let's hurry up and leave.
Lucas quickened his pace. Even though he had more than 1,000 people on his side, Trent and Sergio had combined forces, and their numbers were much higher than his. Trent and Sergio were both competent bosses in the underworld, and Lucas wasn't sure if he could win against them. He didn't know why they were protecting Steven and his wife, but that was something that they would have to investigate once they got back. Meanwhile, Trent and Sergio's underlings watched them leave in disappointment. They were confident that they would have won. Unfortunately, Lucas had run away with his tail between his legs. The Haynes family received news that Trent and Sergio had helped Steven and Kim get out of the situation with Lucas. Everyone in the family was aware of Trent and Sergio's high status in the underworld. It was shocking to find out that they were acquainted with Kim and Steven. No wonder they were so calm when they left the house, Linda exclaimed. I wonder why Sergio's attitude changed all of a sudden, Kelly said. Her husband had asked Sergio to stir up trouble at the construction site to make things difficult for Kim, but he'd backed out halfway through the plan. Steven and Kim have Trent and Sergio on their side, so Lucas won't touch them for now. But we don't have anyone. He'll definitely turn his attention to us. What should we do? Gianna asked. Everyone became anxious. I think Cohen should take care of this, Megan suggested. He works in the government, so Lucas would at least have to hear him out. I guess that's the only way, Linda said helplessly. But she wasn't confident. She had personally witnessed her husband groveling on the floor when Lucas paid him a visit. Lucas was too powerful. She could only hope that her husband would make it out alive. At this time, Lucas had returned to his mansion. The more he thought about his encounter with Kim and Steven, the more he thought it was ridiculous. Why would Trent and Sergio protect them? He was Santa Ana's economic lifeline, but he couldn't do anything against them. A woman in a black leather jacket and boots crossed the living room and took a seat in front of him. Lucas was startled by the unexpected visitor. He hadn't even heard her walk in.
Miss Melinda? He stuttered. I swear I had to leave because Trent and Sergio are too skilled in fights. I may not have subordinates, but they're no match for either of them.
Save it. I brought someone to help you. Melinda snapped her fingers. Lucas looked on, frozen in fear. Was this man even human? A name flashed in his mind.
Is he?
Yes, Melinda said with a smile. He's Alaric, the martial arts genius with cannibalistic tendencies. He killed off all the big shots in Santa Ana's underworld 10 years ago and disappeared without a trace. In truth, the Addams family subdued him and imprisoned him in one of Santa Ana's caves. He finally came in handy today. Lucas felt a chill run down his spine as he watched Alaric swallow. He was glad that he and the Addams family had an alliance. Are you full yet? Melinda asked Alaric, who was wolfing down his meal. Alaric didn't answer. He continued to eat, but at a faster pace. After you've eaten your fill, get back to work. Melinda took out 2 photos, one of Trent and one of Sergio. Your task is to get rid of these 2 people. Alaric let out an inhuman growl. Melinda turned to the door and shouted, Who's there? Stop sneaking around and show yourself. It was Linda's husband, Cohen, who had just arrived at the Klein family's mansion. Cohen trembled when Alaric's gaze swept over him. He raised his hands in surrender.
Mr. Lucas, you recognize me, don't you? I'm Cohen. What are you doing here?
Lucas asked coldly. Cohen hurriedly explained himself.
We know that Stephen and Kim injured your son, but I came here on behalf of the Haynes family to tell you we have nothing to do with them.
Is this how the Haynes family apologizes? You've brought nothing to show your sincerity, Melinda said, fixing her gaze on him. Cohen nervously averted his eyes. Melinda was a beautiful woman who could command Alaric, a human who resembled a wild beast.
From now on, Kim and Stephen are no longer members of the Haynes family. Mr. Lucas, our family is willing to do anything for you.
Very good, Melinda praised. I hope you remember the promise you made today. Cohen wiped the sweat from his forehead.
Yes, of course.
After their nerve-wracking discussion, Cohen returned to the Haynes family's house. A lingering fear was ingrained deep in his bones long after he left the mansion. He couldn't even walk properly. Cohen informed everyone of what had happened.
I didn't think Alaric, the man who the heads of Santa Ana's underworld 10 years ago, would show up. I'm afraid that no one can compete with Lucas in this city.
Gordon remembered Alaric's name. 10 years ago, it was precise because Alaric had gotten rid of the underworld threat to Haynes Industries in one night that he had been able to take advantage of the opportunity and develop his company. Compared to the underworld, Alaric was much more terrifying.
Kim and Stephen have Trent and Sergio to back them up. An Eastern Sea group said they wanted Kim to manage the 5-star hotel project. How do we kick her out of the family?
Kelly's husband asked. Whether it was Alaric, Lucas, Trent, or Sergio, the Haynes family wasn't powerful enough to go against either one of them.
I have an idea to remove Kim from the vice president position,
Megan's husband said.
It's almost time to compensate the construction workers. We can transfer out the funds from Haynes Industries and accuse her of embezzling the money. If the workers can't get compensation, they'll come to the company and riot. We can take this chance and deem her unworthy of the position. Then, we'll send Kim and her family back to Los Angeles and retain the peace in our family.
No one was opposed to Megan's husband's idea. Santa Ana's largest casino was bustling late into the night. Standing across the street was a man with a physique similar to a brown bear. With an ominous glint in his eyes, he jaywalked to the entrance of the casino. One of the casino's staff greeted Alaric when he entered.
Tell your boss to come out,
Alaric said. When Trent entered the casino, he was greeted by a burly man who was much taller than he was.
Who are you?
Trent asked cautiously.
Are you Trent, the boss of this casino?
Yes, that's me. Alaric reached into his pocket and took out a photo, comparing the man with Trent. After confirming, he stuffed the photo back into his jacket and walked towards him.
You're my prey.
It won't be that easy. Trent pulled out a knife and lunged. But Alaric was too fast, and he possessed inhuman strength. Everyone was terrified as they watched the scene unfold before them. Trent was one of the 4 leaders of Santa Ana's underworld. His agility and strength were unparalleled, at least within the city.
This is what happens if you go against us.
He tore Trent's picture in half and threw it on the floor before leaving the casino.
Next target, Sergio.
The next day, the city was rattled by an explosive piece of news. 2 leaders of Santa Ana's underworld, Trent and Sergio, had perished in their respective territories last night. Those who witnessed the incident had been so scared that none of them could properly explain what they had seen. Therefore, no one knew what the murderer looked like. However, there were rumors that Trent and Sergio had met their end at the hands of their vengeful enemies. It had been many years since they'd made a name for themselves in Santa Ana's underworld. They had too many enemies to count, so finding the culprits wouldn't be an easy task. Kim was in disbelief as she watched the morning news. Stephen, Trent and Sergio were last night. Do you think it's because they helped us yesterday? Her logic was reasonable. Only one day had passed since Trent and Sergio stood up to Lucas and his subordinates to protect them. And the next morning, they were dead. It couldn't have been a coincidence. When Kim wasn't looking, Stephen contacted Flynn, the scout who Xavier had introduced to him. Flynn told him that 10 years ago, Alaric heard the 10 leaders of Santa Ana's underworld. It was strange that Alaric had chosen now to reappear in public. Only one person could have been behind this: Stephen's aunt, Melinda. She was the only one who could order Alaric around. He was much stronger than Garrett's subordinate, Jacob. This confirmed that Melinda was supporting Lucas from behind the scenes. "Looks like the streets will be hectic for the next few days, Kim. I'll accompany you whenever you leave the house until this is over," Stephen said. Kim felt much safer knowing that he was around. Kim's phone rang. Her secretary was calling. "Bad news, Miss Kim. Something happened at the company. Please come as soon as you can." Kim and Stephen hurried to Haynes Industries. The entire Haynes family, with the exception of Natalie, was present. From the serious looks on their faces, whatever they were about to say couldn't be good. "Kim, how could you do this?" Linda demanded. "What's going on?" Kim asked in confusion. The financial director stood up from the table. "Miss Kim, today is the day we pay the construction workers for the 5-star hotel project. When I came to work this morning, our department's accounts were empty. There's not even a single cent. After investigating, I discovered that there was a large amount of money transferred out last night." "Are you implying that someone deliberately moved the money? Who was it?" Kim asked. "Your acting is pretty good," Linda said mockingly. "Don't you have any compassion for the construction workers? They're depending on today's paychecks." Kim glared at her. "Aunt Linda, what are you talking about? Are you saying I secretly took the money?" "Among those in the company, only the CEO and the vice president have the authority to privately move the funds in the financial department's accounts," Cohen said. "Your grandpa and grandma clearly wouldn't do something like this, so you're the most suspicious. I heard you had the support of Trent and Sergio, but they violent last night because they helped you. I guess you were afraid of the culprit coming after you, so you decided to steal whatever money you could and run away when you got a chance." Kim felt a headache coming on. That never crossed my mind. And I only found out about Trent and Sergio's this morning. Linda scoffed. "In any case, you've messed with Lucas, and without Trent and Sergio backing you up, you know you won't stand a chance in Santa Ana. So you stole the company's money to prepare for your escape."
It was a perfect plan, but it's a pity that we discovered it in time, Kelly said.
"I wasn't planning on running away," Kim said firmly. "If you really think that I took the money for myself without permission, then check my bank account to see if it's there." "Do you think we're..." Gianna asked. "Why would you keep the stolen funds in your own bank account? That's like telling everyone that you're the culprit." "Then what are you suggesting I do?" Gordon, who had been silent since Kim entered the room, spoke up.
"Hand over the money and resign. You're my granddaughter, Kim, so I want to settle this peacefully. But if you continue to deny it, then we'll have to follow the law."
Stephen's laughter filled the room.
"You've finally revealed your true intentions. All of you were beating around the bush and talking in circles, but what you really want is for Kim to resign from the vice president's position. She attained the right to inherit the business, so you all must be worried."
"That's nonsense," Mavis shouted. "Stephen, shut up. There's no place for you to speak in the Haynes family."
Kim held his arm. "There's no point in provoking them. We should think of a way to prove my innocence."
"Okay then, let's investigate," Stephen said. "Since the money was transferred last night, let's check the security cameras."
Kim agreed with him. "I was thinking the same thing." Surprisingly, Gordon, Mavis, and the rest of the Haynes family also agreed. When they went to the security room, Kim and Stephen realized why everyone had followed them without complaint. The money had been transferred around 10:30 p.m. last night. When the security guard pulled up the footage during that time, the screen was filled with static. It was clear that the footage had been damaged. Linda turned to Kim as if she had thought of something. "Did you bring us here so that you could show us a damaged video to cover up what you did?"
"It's obvious that she's behind it," Kelly said. "The rest of the footage is fine. It's only around 10:30 when we can't see anything."
"I have to say, Kim, your plan was brilliant," Megan said. "By destroying the evidence, no one can prove that you're the culprit, and you can run off scot-free with the money."
Gordon gave Kim a disapproving look.
Hundreds of construction workers are waiting to be paid. With such a large amount of money, you can leave Santa Ana unscathed. But what will happen to Haynes Industries? Because of you, our company will be ruined. What's more, me, your grandma, and your aunts may be thrown into prison for not paying our employees. Kim, are you enjoying this?
Mavis narrowed her eyes.
You girl. You want to ruin our company and our family.
Stephen held up a hard disc.
No need to raise your voices. You'll tire yourselves out. This is the footage from last night. I'll get it fixed. As long as the original is restored, the truth behind last night will come to light.
Linda leaned against the table and crossed her arms. Repairing the original footage, it's already destroyed. I doubt any computer expert can recover the original files.
Oh, really?
Stephen asked with a knowing smile.
Aunt Linda, how are you so sure that the video can't be recovered? Could it be that you're the one who damaged the footage?
Linda's confident expression faltered for a brief second. What nonsense are you talking about?
Stop slandering us,
Cohen said. Stephen ignored them and faced Gordon.
Give us 3 hours. When the footage is recovered, we'll know what really happened. Grandpa, I'm sure you're curious as to who stole your company's money, right?
Gordon nodded.
All right, I'll give you 3 hours, but if you can't prove that Kim's innocent, then she'll have to give us back the money and resign from her position.
Sure, no problem. Stephen held Kim's hand and led her out of the security room. After they left, Linda turned to Cohen worriedly. Honey, do you think Stephen can really restore that video? Don't worry, he definitely won't be able to. I hired a skilled hacker to mess with it. Even someone from the National Security Agency won't be able to restore it. Kelly snorted.
Even if he can, Trent and Sergio are both dead. Kim doesn't have anyone to support her anymore. Who's stopping us from insisting that she stole the money? Besides, there's a high chance that Lucas hired someone to kill Trent and Sergio. He's really someone we can't mess with. We'll use Kim as our scapegoat to show that we're on his side.
That's right, Gordon said. Compared to sacrificing Kim, the future of the Haynes family is more important. Even though we're using an underhanded method, they took painstaking efforts to build up this company from scratch. I won't let them destroy my life's achievement.
When Kim and Stephen returned to Riverview Villa, Natalie scolded him for being rash.
Are you crazy? How are we supposed to restore a security camera in 3 hours? Kim's life is on the line, you know.
Stephen reassured them.
Don't worry. I met a hacker on the internet a while back. He has a knack for computers, and he can easily fix the video.
Kim wasn't too confident, but she didn't have any other ideas. This was the only thing they could go on. Stephen gave Jack a call.
I'm going to send you footage from a security camera. It's damaged. I don't care what you have to do, but restore it within the hour.
The palace possessed half of the world's wealth, and finding a top-tier computer expert was a piece of cake. Jack sent a restored video back to Stephen in less than 15 minutes. Kim was surprised when Stephen told her that he had the results. That was fast.
Let's watch it together,
he said, pressing the play button on his screen. In the video, someone clad in black walked into the finance department. From their stature, they appeared to be a woman. She was wearing a mask and a large hat, so her face couldn't be seen. The woman took a seat at one of the desks and turned on the computer. The time on the screen was exactly 10:30 p.m. This was the time when a large amount of money had been transferred last night. Kim frowned. She's wearing a mask, so we can't see her face. Even though the video was fixed, it won't help us.
Let's keep watching and see what happens,
Stephen said. After the woman transferred the money, she raised her head to look into the camera. She pulled down her mask and smirked as if victory was hers. Her unnecessary actions were the fatal flaw in their ploy. The identity of the woman was as clear as day to Kim, Stephen, and Natalie. It was Linda, Natalie's oldest sister. Natalie was indignant the moment she saw Linda reveal her face.
I didn't expect it to be her. She framed you, Kim, for something that she did. She's despicable.
Stephen received a text from Jack. The recipient of the money that Linda had transferred from Haynes Industries' accounts was Gordon. This was more evidence that the Haynes family had colluded with one another to frame Kim. Even Gordon and Mavis were involved.
Transfer the money to Linda's bank account,
Stephen instructed. Understood, Jack replied. The palace consisted of its own group of specialized hackers. They could easily make changes to the funds in Linda and Gordon's bank accounts without leaving a single trace behind. They could even change the time when the funds were moved. Before 3 hours were up, they were ready to head back to Haynes Industries and clear Kim's name. This time, Natalie followed Kim and Stephen to the company. You're back, Linda called out when they entered the building. Did you restore the footage? Kelly grinned.
How could that be possible? In my opinion, they came back to beg for mercy.
It hasn't been 3 hours yet, Gianna said. Kim probably realized that she has no way out but to admit her crimes.
Stephen waved the hard disk in his hand. Sorry to disappoint you, but we've recovered the video. He shifted his gaze to Linda.
Do you want to take a look first?
Linda's heart raced when she remembered her provocative gesture towards the camera last night, but she forced herself to calm down. Who are you trying to scare? Do you think you're some kind of hacker? How could it be repaired so easily? Stephen smiled and inserted the hard drive into the computer.
You'll know soon enough.
The same scene of a masked woman dressed in black with a large hat played on the screen. Natalie's sisters all started talking at once. Is that it? You may have restored the video, but we don't know who this woman is. Her face is all covered up. This doesn't prove anything. How do we know she's not Kim? She's still a suspect. Linda didn't say anything. She was nervous. She hoped that the video would end here. But the video continued. 1 minute later, the woman looked into the camera and removed her mask. It was Linda. Kelly was dumbfounded by Linda's. She took advantage of the situation and pretended like she had no idea.
Why is it you, Linda? I didn't think you would embezzle such a large amount of money from Dad's company.
Gianna followed her lead.
Mom and Dad trust you so much. How could you do that to them?
Megan cut ties with Linda as well. You've disappointed all of us. Linda was stunned and speechless by their fragile sisterhood. They were all pretending like they didn't know about this and shoving her under the bus when each and every one of them had been involved. Linda turned around and looked at her husband, Cohen. He was wearing a righteous expression on his face. Honey, how could you do this to Kim? It wasn't a small amount either. You almost ruined her life when she was innocent all along. Even Gordon shook his head. He was disappointed in Linda. Why had she removed her mask? He had told her specifically to get out of there as soon as the transfer was complete. Everything would have worked out if she hadn't let her arrogance get to her. Stephen pressed her for an answer.
Aunt Linda, what do you have to say for yourself?
Linda panicked, and her mind went blank. Gordon came to her rescue.
You can't put all the blame on Linda. Actually, I'm the one who told her to transfer the money. The city has been unstable lately, and I was worried that the company wouldn't be a safe place to keep the funds, so I told her to transfer the money into my bank account. I'm getting old, and my memory is starting to fail me. I forgot what happened last night and almost blamed Kim when she wasn't at fault.
Yes, Dad told me to do it, Linda echoed.
Sure, you're old and your memory has deteriorated, but will you still say the same thing after knowing that you're being fooled?
Stephen said. Linda frowned. What do you mean by that? It was obvious that Gordon had spoken up to cover for her and turned this problem into something trivial. She guessed that Kim, Stephen, and Natalie had caught on, but from the way Stephen was talking, it sounded like he knew something she didn't.
I acknowledge that I'm old and that my memory isn't as good as it used to be, but I've been in this industry for decades. No one can fool me that easily.
That's not necessarily true, Grandpa,
Stephen said.
You said that Aunt Linda transferred the money into your bank account, which means the bank should have sent you a message regarding the change in balance. I think it's best if you check your phone.
There's no need for that. Linda is my oldest daughter, and I was the one who told her to do it. There's no mistake.
Exactly, Linda said. From what I see, you're deliberately trying to drive a wedge between us.
Stephen, who do you think you are? Cohen asked. You think you can say anything and make us believe you?
Since Gordon was supporting Linda, Kelly, Gianna, and Megan changed their attitudes and did the same. You're just a son-in-law who only knows how to freeload. This is the Haynes family's business. You have no right to speak. Linda flashed a complacent smile. The director of the finance department rushed into the conference room. Mr. Gordon, the compensation for the construction workers has been delayed for almost a day. We can't drag this on any longer. Otherwise, they might not come to work tomorrow, and the project will have to be suspended. Gordon gave him an annoyed look.
What's this about? Didn't I tell you to transfer the money from my personal bank account?
I did as you asked, but you have insufficient funds in your account, the director explained. Gordon waved his hands dismissively.
That's impossible. You must have gotten it wrong. Last night at 10:30, the compensation I prepared for the construction workers was transferred to my personal account.
He took out his phone.
Let me show you the message from the bank.
When Gordon checked his texts, he was confused to see that he hadn't received any messages from the bank.
What's going on? Why didn't the bank send me a message when such a large amount of money was transferred into my account? I receive messages every time.
Maybe there's a delay in the bank's notification system, Linda suggested nervously. It's been more than 12 hours since 10:30 last night, the director said. How could there be a delay? Mr. Gordon, why don't you call the bank and verify the transfer? Gordon turned serious. There was a large amount of money at stake. After calling the bank, his expression darkened. He looked at Linda.
Don't you have something to tell me?
Linda was confused. What do you mean?
The bank checked my account and told me that nothing was transferred last night. They said it was transferred into your personal account. Linda, why did you do that? What do you want?
Dad, I really don't understand. What are you talking about?
Give me your phone,
Gordon ordered. Linda obediently handed over her phone, and he opened up her list of text messages. Sure enough, there was a recent message from the bank sent at 10:30 p.m. sharp. Gordon tossed her phone back.
Take a look for yourself. What's the meaning of this?
Linda was astonished when she read the text on her screen. She couldn't remember ever receiving this message. The only person in the room who knew what was going on was Stephen. This was the work of a highly skilled hacker from the palace. They had hacked into the bank system, transferred a lump sum of money, and modified Gordon and Linda's text messages. Dad, this has to be spam. I've never seen this message before.
You don't need to explain. The bank confirmed that you received a large amount of money last night, and it was from Haynes Industries.
Kelly, Gianna, and Megan once again turned their backs on Linda.
Did you really do that?
I didn't know you were this kind of person. This is so scary. Good thing Dad caught it in time. Linda could have run off with our money, and our company would have been ruined. Even Cohen looked like he wanted to draw a clear line between himself and Linda. Are you out of your mind? The fate of Haynes Industries depends on this money. How could you be this greedy? Tell me honestly, do you have another man out there? Did you take this money so you could leave me and get together with him? No, I really don't know why this money is in my account. Linda glanced at Mavis with a pitiful expression. Mavis looked away and acted as if none of this was her business.
You don't need to explain any more,
Gordon snapped.
From now on, you'll be removed from all positions in the company, and you will no longer be involved in our business. Also, I would advise you to hand over the money. If the police get involved, you'll be going to jail.
Linda started panicking. Dad, don't call the police. I'll give the money to you. Kelly, Gianna, and Megan, who had once been on the same side as Linda, looked on with gloating expressions. Natalie was thrilled when she got home. Her older sister, who had never liked her and constantly bullied her, had been completely destroyed today. Natalie felt like the anger she'd accumulated over the years had vanished in an instant. And, in her eyes, Stephen didn't seem that annoying anymore. He was the one who'd gotten the video restored and repeatedly urged Gordon to check his phone. Kim was also in a good mood. With the false accusations out of the way, she could finally concentrate on the project again. As for Stephen, he sent Flynn a message asking if they could meet up. It had been 3 days since Flynn left the military camp to investigate Melinda. With his skills, Stephen guessed that he already had results. They met on the outskirts of the city.
How's the investigating going with Melinda?
I've tracked down her whereabouts. She's here in Santa Ana, and her target is you. Yesterday night, a man who goes by Alaric killed Sergio and Trent. Alaric killed the 10 leaders of Santa Ana's underworld 10 years ago, and the only people who can make him submit are the members of the Addams family.
So they've dispatched that lunatic. Looks like Melinda has gone all out. Say, do you think your next target will be me?
If Melinda dares lay a finger on you, I'll be the first one to take action.
Stephen gave Flynn a thoughtful look.
Rather than sitting here and waiting for death, it's better to take the initiative. Where's Melinda now?
Melinda is residing in Lucas's home. Alaric is with her.
Flynn paused, his eyes widening in realization.
Chief, are you planning to head there now?
Yes, since they're all there, why don't we catch them in one fell swoop?
Flynn was excited at the thought of another secret mission with Stephen.
Should we call Captain Floyd and have the special forces come with us?
No, just the two of us are enough.
Just us two,
Flynn repeated incredulously. 10 years ago, Alaric was an A-rank fugitive, and the reward for his arrest was $1 million. He had evaded capture all this time, and since then, he'd grown stronger. According to Santa Ana's underworld rankings and strength, Alaric was almost S-rank. Seeing Flynn's expression, Stephen couldn't help but tease him.
Are you not confident in my abilities?
Flynn waved his hands in a panic.
No, I'm just worried about your safety. You hold an exalted status after all.
In the past, Stephen had single-handedly defeated 1,000 enemies and turned the tides of battle. His strength was unquestionable. If someone as incredible as Stephen were injured in any way, Flynn would never be able to live it down. That was why he was currently under a lot of pressure. At Lucas's mansion, Melinda was sitting on the couch with her legs crossed and propped up on the table. Lucas has purchased this table for hundreds of thousands of dollars, but he didn't dare to tell Melinda off. Alaric stood behind her, sending chills down his spine. Lucas stood to the side and kept his eyes on the floor. Occasionally, he would look up and see Melinda's long, attractive legs on the table. But then, his gaze would shift to Alaric, and he would stare at the carpet again. Lucas knew that he could lose his head at any moment with just a few words from the beauty to the beast in front of him.
Miss Melinda, what do you plan on doing next?
Lucas asked respectfully. Melinda smiled. Trent is dead, and so is Sergio. It's up to you now, Lucas. The decision is yours. The 3-day deadline you gave Kim and Stephen has arrived. Tomorrow, you'll go to Haynes Industries and get them to hand over Kim. If not, then you'll eradicate them as revenge for your son's death.
But my son isn't dead,
Lucas said. Alaric went into the other room, where Alexander was lying on a bed, covered in bandages. Without a moment's hesitation, he tore Alexander apart. Lucas resisted the urge to vomit. Your son is dead now, Melinda said coldly. Lucas, you don't have to be sad. Since your son was already in that condition, it's better for him to die here. My family will match you up with a woman near your age, and she'll give birth to your child.
Thank you, Miss Melinda.
Lucas's heart clenched at the thought of his son. He had raised him for so many years, but in the face of this terrifying, beast-like creature in front of him, his sorrow was washed away. Lucas gritted his teeth.
You're right. My son is dead, and this is all because of Kim's husband, Stephen. I'll have them pay with their lives tomorrow.
There's no need to wait until tomorrow. Let's settle this now. The door to the mansion was kicked open, and 2 people came inside. Stephen had his hands in his pockets as he sauntered over to Lucas and Melinda. Flynn followed him from behind. Lucas glared at him.
How dare you trespass into my house?
Let me take care of him. Alaric, who never spoke first, pushed Lucas aside and towered in front of Stephen like he was his prey. Since you've come of your own accord, then stay and play with my little bear, Melinda said with a smile. Alaric, I'll give you 10 minutes to finish him off. Stephen's gaze turned cold. Back then, a stranger's words had caused the family to turn against him. They cut the tendons in his hands and feet and threw him into the wilderness. It was pure luck that he'd managed to survive. But the Addams family was now refusing to let him go, and were even sending people to chase him down.
Aunt Melinda, shouldn't you have told your pet to keep me alive? If you kill me off, how will you use my bone marrow to save my brother who has leukemia?
What, are you afraid? Melinda giggled. Since you're going to die very soon, why don't I let you in on a little secret? Your sickly brother has nothing to do with me. I don't care whether he lives or dies.
Please subscribe to the Pocket FM YouTube channel and press the bell icon for instant notification. Check out our channel for more such exciting shows.
Pocket FM. To unlock all the episodes, click the link in bio.